Hello, everyone, and welcome to another preview show here on the Cycling Dane Extra channel. If you're listening on the Cycling Dane podcast, as always, I'm joined by Patrick Blake, and today we're going to be discussing the second monument of the year, Milan San Remo. I'm joking, of course, on Strade Bianche isn't a monument. Don't worry, Patrick. Had you there for a while. But Milan San Remo, obviously the world champion, that's going to be talked later on. But in terms of our race as a whole, there's so many additions. I mean, I loved where Pedersen, he feels like he has won this race, but he really hasn't. So many great additions. Mathieu. I'm not going to mention the rider that you're probably going to mention who's won this as well. But yeah, Milan San Remo, where does it sit in your cycling heart?
I love San Remo. I really do. I love Milan and San Remo. I've never been to San Remo. I have no judgment as to whether it's a good place or not. I presume it is. But the race I love just because it's got to be some of the most distilled, exciting racing that you're going to see in the cycling calendar. And I think it gets a bit of a bad rep, and understandably so, for the very mundane first, 4 hours or so. There's even a website specifically built for, has anything happened yet in San Remo? But I love the race. I love, like you mentioned, I love the 2017 edition. That is still etched in my brain when Kwiatkowski just about edged Sagan on the line. That's my favourite race, honestly, of all time. I watch back that at least once a month. Honestly, I've got it on my YouTube favourites, alongside 2019 Amstel Gold Race with Van der Poel winning. That was also another one. But like you say, so many great people have won this over the year, like Van der Poel, like Alaphilippe, like Wout van Aert and Mohoric, Stuyven. Like, nobody bad wins this race. Whoever wins this is always some sort of name, and I think it's just a really cool race because it's one of very fine margins. And obviously we'll talk about that and how that's going to influence how this race is going to be played this year. But it is a race which can really come down just to like absolute seconds worth of decisions and really precise technical ability as well. You need to be a good puncher but also descend really well. I love it as a race. I think that, it keeps a very similar format and it always brings excitement on Milano San Remo Day.
Milano San Remo Day, that's a good way to put it. I mean, Fabian Cancellara winning this, Simon Gerrans beating out Cancellara and Nibali, who also won. So Nibali, Gerrans, and Cancellara, that podium, everyone won on that day. Gaviria, do you remember that? Where he seemed destined to win it and then crashed in the final few meters. That was very sad. Christoph obviously had his own win. There's been a good set of winners, and like you said, it's been all over the place. It's not just one kind of rider that wins this. It's, mayhem. But we'll get into the favorites. But what does the route look like for the riders? Is it Milano to San Remo?
Sort of. It starts in Pavia and goes to San Remo, but it picks up the sort of traditional route after a while. So it starts off in Pavia, heads north towards Milan, so that kind of takes in the Milan part of the San Remo place. So then we go to Certosa, where we kind of join the more traditional course, and then we head along some pretty traditional flat terrain. We go over kind of the first major climb, which is the Passo del Ticino. This is 140 kilometers into the race is the crest of that, and then we have another 100 odd kilometers before you're going to take in any of the other sort of small lumps and bumps, beginning with, of course, the Capo Mele, the Capo Chiavo, the Capo Berta, and then we move into the Cipressa, which is the first sort of major obstacle in the way. It's where we've seen a lot of people trying to put the pace down to hurt a lot of sprinters in the past, and that has, it usually works every year. You'll see one or two big favourites kind of dropping out the back of the peloton of a Cipressa. I remember like Christophe Laporte last year became kind of a bit unstuck last time round. But the Cipressa is 5.6 kilometers long and averages 4.1%. It's got very technical descent where we saw, remember Bonifacio absolutely sent it a couple of years ago. Then we go into the base of the Poggio di San Remo, which is 3.7 kilometers, averaging 4%. But it's in the last kilometer and a half where you see the steepest gradients up to 8%. This is where we've seen Pogacar and Alaphilippe and Van der Poel all attacking to great success in the past. Then we have a very tight, technical and twisty descent, which has obviously been put to good use by Matej Mohoric in multiple editions, including last year where he almost got away. And then, of course, we go down into San Remo, with the last 2 kilometers being very long, very straight sections with some 90-degree bends. With 850 meters to go, there's the final left-hand bend on the roundabout, followed by another right-hand corner at 750 meters to go. I think this is roughly where Pidcock attacked last year. And then that leads onto the final finishing straight on the Via Roma, where we will see whatever kind of situation there is going to be. Last year, we saw Van der Poel leading it out for a sprint for Philipsen, although actually it was more like Stuyven and Pedersen, which was leading out Philipsen for the victory. But Matthews and Pogacar, but we've seen solo victors coming down here in the past as well. We've seen small groups. It's got such versatility in terms of what sort of style of race you're going to get. Last year, obviously, was a bit of a weird one in that it turned into the actual Sprinters Classic that it's been renowned for being, which has been in a bit of a hiatus for the last, 8 years or so, but it hadn't really been. Essentially, since the Kwiatkowski edition in 2017, it had stopped being a Sprinters Classic. So who knows what we're going to get this time around, Scott, whether it'll be a Sprinters Classic, an Attackers Classic, an absolute Daredevil Demon Descender Classic. Who knows?
All of it at once. No. In terms of, well, we can go, there's a lot of avenues we can go in terms of the favorites section. I mean, everyone's screaming for the rainbow jersey elephant in the room, but we won't go there first. Out of respect, we're going to go to Alpecin-Deceuninck. Obviously, they have the last 2 champions in the form of Jasper Philipsen last year and Mathieu van der Poel the year before. Absolutely daring descent there from Mathieu van der Poel. But how do you think they're going to play it this year? And do you think, well, okay, we'll start with Mathieu van der Poel. Sorry, Jasper. But is he the favorite for this year's Milan-San Remo? He won it last semaine, but is he the guy, or is it similar to what they did last year?
I thought about this quite a bit as well recently, is how would Alpecin-Deceuninck play it to give them the best chance of winning? I think that they will be looked at to go with Philipsen again to try and win, but if anything, it might therefore be smarter to go with Van der Poel and attack with him, because there's going to be other sprinters in there. Obviously, last year there were plenty of fast finishers in that front group, and whether Alpecin will be confident in Philipsen being able to do that against the sprinters again, or whether it might be smarter to use Van der Poel in his very traditional attacking and flamboyant sense to try and force other teams to do something. I think that might be a smarter move. I don't think it would be wise to just use Van der Poel as a coverer, like a person who covers moves like he was last year. I think it might be a better idea to kind of, the best form of defense is attack and really put the pressure onto other teams by using Van der Poel, because, there'll be other sprinters there. And I think that relying solely on Philipsen to do it, in theory, gives you pretty good percentage of victory. But if you have Van der Poel solo, or at least maybe with only 1 or 2 other people that he could beat in a sprint, then that might also be a more likely chance of winning than relying on a sprint. It's very hard to think about which way would be best, because I think both provide good avenues of victory.
I mean, 1 inch either way, and last year would have been a failure, and Michael Matthews would have been very happy. I mean, in terms of Mathieu van der Poel, he actually has quite an impressive record in this race. First time he did it was 2020, 13th, 2021, 5th, 2022, that 3rd place, which was quite impressive. I think that was his first race of the year as well. And 2023, obviously winning, and then 10th last year, despite marking Tadej Pogacar and being his shadow. Would you go for Mathieu van der Poel? Do you think he is the favorite that everyone is looking at, or is a certain someone else that we'll get onto a bit later?
I would say, personally, that Van der Poel is the favourite. But I think that it's so close between, 4 people. I haven't looked at the betting market, but I expect that they're all between, a pretty small margin. But I would say that Van der Poel he's a previous winner. He can descend, he can sprint. Even if, say, Philipsen wasn't here, Van der Poel would still be a favourite to contest a sprint at the end. And probably still top 5 against some of the biggest sprinters in the world, because he showed that he's really fast. Even just in Tirreno this week, just gone, he was sprinting to second. He won the sprint on stage 5 after going over some of those really tough climbs. And it was on stage 4, which Olav Koy won. He finished 3rd in that sprint. So he's no slouch in a sprint. So I would say Van der Poel is the favourite, because he's got the most versatility of anybody.
How much faith do you have in Jasper Philipsen this year? Because he hasn't been looking all-conquering And there are riders in this race that we won't mention right now, but who have beaten him this year quite comfortably.
Yeah, that's very true. But you could also say that last year he won San Remo, but that was off of a third place at Danilv Norcross. He got one sprint victory at Tirreno. He was 92nd in Kuurne Brussels Kuurne and 66th in Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. Last year wasn't exactly screaming, I'm the big favourite for Milano San Remo. I'm going to beat everybody. And therefore, I'm apprehensive to read anything into what's happened this year, because if he could win from last year's results, then there's no reason why he couldn't win from this year's results. I mean, this year he's won, Kuurne Brussels Kuurne. He's actually been looking, I would say, a little bit stronger this year than he was last year. So it all just depends whether he can hang on the Poggio. And sometimes that can just be like, I don't know, how good your sleep was the night before, how, as nobody will admit if they've been ill the last week, but has he somehow got ill or whatever, or how's his training been going? Philipsen still has to be considered a favourite just because he won last year, coming off of worse results than he had this year.
I mean, did he not miss out on Paris-Nice and Tirreno, if I'm not mistaken? And both of those races were pretty cold, and maybe illnesses have happened as a result of that. So maybe he might be flying and a beneficiary of, I don't know where he's been cycling, probably like somewhere in Spain.
Very true. Maybe he's dodged a bullet by not going to these stage races.
But we might as well go to the next team, and that is, of course, the one we cannot escape, the rainbow jersey elephant in the room. Tadej Pogacar, winner of UAE Tour, winner of Strade Bianche despite crashing, dropping Tom Pidcock, won every single one-day race in Italy he's ridden with the rainbow jersey so far. So that is Giro d'Emilia, Il Lombardi and Strade Bianche. But I mean, Patrick, why has he never won this race?
Because it's just not suited to him. It's just very short answer to that. And he is, without a doubt, the big threat for this race, in that he will be attacking. But everybody knows he's going to be attacking. He's not going to be waiting for a sprint. So everybody knows they're going to have to put out some absolutely ridiculous watts in order to follow Pogacar in that final kilometre of the Poggio di San Remo, because he is going to attack. It's just a matter as to, like, can you hang on, basically, to Tadej Pogacar. But going back to your question, why has he not won this? Is because of the climbs not being hard enough for him. And it's also, I would say, because he isn't the best descender in comparison to the other competitors who are generally up and around him. At the end of San Remo, your likes of Mathieu van der Poel or, Alaphilippe, Pidcock, Mohoric. A lot of these guys are really brilliant descenders, but you just maybe don't see them on a regular basis. Like, I'd say that most people in that front group in a San Remo would be a better descender than Pogacar is. It's just that he can't get enough of a gap on the Poggio. Like, he would need at least 10 seconds, I think, on the Poggio to be able to hold that on the descent, because I think that somebody like Mohoric or Van der Poel could probably close 5 seconds, 6 seconds on him on the descent, just because they're slightly better bike handlers than he is. I'm not saying that Pogacar's bad. I'm just saying that comparatively, he's up against some of the best in the world who, have X-ray vision on their Conti GP 5000s, and they know exactly where they are on the edge of their grip. So I think that's Pogacar's main problem, is that even if he gets a gap, it's about holding that. If he got off of the Poggio and he's got a gap of 5 seconds, I'd give him a chance. But if he even gets reabsorbed into that group and he needs to sprint against people, I think he'll probably come up against somebody faster.
I mean, he did pretty well last year when you think about it, coming in that group and out sprinting Mads Pedersen for a podium position. That was, quite, not the first time he did it. Didn't he do it at the World Championships in Glasgow as well? He knocked him off the third place. But yeah, I just wanted to fill everyone in on this. He has quite an impressive record. 2020 was his first race, so that wasn't his Neo Pro year. That was the year before, but 12th there. Then 2022, 5th. To 2023, where he finished behind Ganna, Wout van Aert, Mathieu van der Poel, the winner, 4th, and then last year 3rd. So we like patterns. 5th, 4th, 3rd. Does that mean 2nd this year, and then next year he wins?
Yeah, exactly. That's what's going to happen here. Maybe that'll weigh into the predictions.
Maybe. If he does win, he would be the first world champion to do so since 1983, Giuseppe Saroni. So quite a long drought there for a champion. I mean, who would you send here for their team? Okay, we've got a rough idea who they're sending, but you mentioned in the other video we spoke about, is he the favorite for the race? That last year they seemed to run out of men and they were very reliant on Tim Wellens, but he didn't quite have that last bit that they needed. They needed one more man, essentially.
Yeah, I agree. They needed one more man because Velens had to take it up from the bottom of the Poggio all the way to the point where Pogacar attacked. And, that's no discredit to Velens. He did a really good job, but I just think that they needed that extra person in there. And I think that could be Narvaez, although to be honest, he didn't look brilliant in Tirreno this week. Oh no, was he even in Tirreno? Paris-Nice? The fact of the matter is, I can't really remember him doing anything, even if he was in whichever race he was in. I can't remember.
I think it was Paris-Nice because of the very steep incline where Jonas Vingegaard had problems. Narvaez was at the back as well, and the commentators was like, what?
Yeah, it's like they need an extra person, whether that is Narvaez and he was just, I don't know, tired from domestiquing all week. Could it be like a Morgado? Could it be Del Toro, who did look pretty good? They've brought Del Toro here before, but they've used him on the Cipressa. Whether they could bring him, but also bring, probably another ruler, I would say, to keep things under control. Poel looked fantastic in Paris-Nice. Florian Vermeersch was fantastic in Strade Bianchi. I think he finished top 20 in a race which was super long and had a lot of climbing. Florian Vermeersch as a rouleur did very well there, so I'd probably throw his name into the ring as well, just to keep that first, up to the first little lumps and bumps, just to keep things under control. But you need somebody else in front of Ellens, whether that's Del Toro or Narvaez or somebody else. If anybody has any suggestions, be sure to, put it in the comments. That would be my recommendation based upon my, limited experience of World Tour de-essing. But that's what I would say, because Valens has ran out of steam and they needed to keep that pace high. And that's the only way that Pogacar's going to get enough gap at the top of the Poggio to be able to win.
Or just wait for Mathieu van der Poel to go for a nature break and then absolutely just smack it down the road. No, I don't think they will even be able to do that, if I'm honest. But we might as well move on. It's not just about Tadej Pogacar, Mathieu van der Poel and Jasper Philipsen. One team that I'm quite interested in is Lidl Trek. I'm sure you are as well. Former winner, Jasper Stuyven in there. But it's not even him that people are looking towards. It's Mads Pedersen last year's 4th place, and I think John to Milan was also in here. So if he won, the headline would be Milan wins Milan-San Remo. But he's been looking very strong this year. Took the last stage of Tirreno Adriatico as well, so in very good form. What is Lidl Trek's plan here? Is it all in for John to Milan, or is it kind of the road decides?
I think if I was in Lidl Trek's shoes, because Pedersen looks so good in Paris-Nice, ridiculous climbing performances from Pedersen. Now, obviously, climbing in those mountains in Paris-Nice is different to the very short and intense effort of a Poggio to San Remo, so maybe it's, it's not like for like. But I would say in a perfect world, Pedersen follows an attack from, say, a Van der Poel or Pogacar towards the top of the Poggio, works with them a little bit, but then tries to, out-sprint them at the end, because he's beaten Van der Poel in a one-on-one sprint before in Gent-Wevelgem last year. He could probably beat Pogacar, I would say. Yeah, I think if Pedersen doesn't beat Pogacar in a sprint, I think something's gone really wrong. I think the Matrix will have blown open by that point. But I think then the alternative is that then they have Milan in the group behind, and if anybody wants to try bring it back, that group in front, which still contains Pedersen, which is a very strong candidate for victory, but then they're just going to bring the fastest sprinter in the world back into play, who will probably dust off everybody anyway. So I think that's going to be Lidl Trek's plan, is to try and get Pedersen as the attacking option, Milan as the sprinter behind option. I think that both of them provide a very good chance of winning.
Yeah, I agree. Should be quite interesting. I mean, moving on to, we could go to Ineos Grenadiers. Ganna looked, let's just go there. Ganna, 2nd place in Tirreno Adriatico. Wasn't quite on my seasonal bingo card, but a man, of course, who's finished 2nd in this race before, looked very good in 2023. It's not that long ago. And, of course, your favorite rider, Michał Kwiatkowski, in the team as well. Do you think Ineos Can they do something here? I mean, I think Ghana's pretty painted to the ground if it doesn't end up like 2023. I don't think he's going to be winning sprints, even though he has had sprints in the Vuelta before.
Yeah, I think it should be all in for Ganna. I think he provides the most realistic option. And coming off the terrain, I mean, this was a vintage sort of Ganna that we saw, who put 20 plus seconds into people over a 10-kilometer time trial. He was climbing exceptionally well. So I would say that Ganna should be their main man. It's easy to forget that he has finished on the podium in this race in the past as well. He finished.
Did he a favorite, or is he kind of like a bit of an outsider?
I think he is.
How does he animate the race, though?
He doesn't. He just follows moves and hopes to beat everybody in the end. That's it. But you know, just because you're attacking doesn't make you a favorite. You just, you know, it's about who crosses the line first. That's what really counts. And given that Ganna just looks in exceptional form, I think he is somebody who needs to be considered. When Pogacar attacked last year for the first time, he attacked twice. But the first time he attacked, he had Van der Poel on his wheel. And then it was Ganna following with Bettiol, if I remember correctly. So Ganna does have the ability to really kind of dig in and follow those moves. But like you say, he's going to need to be away from Jonathan, Milan and Philipsen in order to win. Because if he's in that group, he's going to be, at best case scenario, third best. So he's going to need to get away from those guys pretty much. Yeah, I just don't know whether he's going to be able to do that on the Poggio. I think like maybe that's the tricky scenario for Ganna, is that he's not quite good enough to be in the attacking group, but he's not fast enough in the sprinting group. So he's in this weird middle ground where he's neither or, which would be interesting. But I think that he is somebody who should be aiming for like the podium in this race. Realistically, you just got to hope that things go his way.
Okay, the last one I want to talk about in this favourites category before we just touch on some outsiders is Michael Matthews. And obviously I spoke to him at the start of the year. He explained how heartbreaking it was with like very close to winning Milan-San Remo. Australian sprinters seem to have like an allergy of winning this race. I'm sure there's maybe Baden Cook or Robbie McEwen or someone has won it in the past, but no, I don't think Robbie McEwen's won it. Stuart O'Grady? That rings a bell. But Michael Matthews, 3 times on the podium, third twice, and second last year. Not the most kind of standout performances leading up to this, but I mean, that doesn't matter. Like you said with Jasper Philipsen, you can come here, doesn't matter who you are, if you have it on the day, and he has the characteristics. He can follow the punches, he can follow the descents, and he has a really good sprint on him.
Yeah, exactly. There's no reason why Matthews couldn't be on the podium again. I would say last year he had more racing beforehand.
Yeah, true.
And he did have some decent results just to kind of, you know, get the motor running. I'd say that this year, like, especially at Paris-Nice, he wasn't really there, but whether that's just because he was working for other people, I'd say that he looked a bit better last year leading up into this race, but that doesn't mean that he won't do well here just because San Remo is such an enigma in that it's 90 kilometers, but 250 kilometers of that, you're not really doing too much. As long as you just remember to eat and drink and go to the, you know, have your nature breaks at a well-timed point, then you're probably all right. And if you can just time your fitness peak for San Remo, then there's no reason why you can't just smash the result on the day and just be a bit of a surprise rider inside the top 10, the top 5 or whatever, or even further. Writing off Michael Matthews is at your own peril because, like you say, he's got such a good history of this race where he knows how to do well on this parcours. He knows how to sprint from a small group, so therefore he fits all of the characteristics of somebody who should be doing well in this race.
Looking out to my outsiders as well, and the fact that you were saying, like, with riders just getting into the top 10 that you don't actually think about. Last year, the riders that I didn't think about, Alberto Bettiol 5th, Maxime Van Heel 7th, Julian Philippe, obviously a previous winner, 9th, and Jasper Stuyven 8th. But other riders that I was kind of looking at, and then you can kind of give us some as well. Tom Pidcock, obviously, great descent, great form right now, was very good in Tirreno, 6th overall, but was up there in some of the stages. Lawrence Pithy is someone you've talked a lot about, 15th last year, Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe New Boy. Magnus Cort Nielsen, Ograd Camino, 3-stage wins, 6th in Star Bianchi, very good form right now. And Uno X, crazy form as a team, and Moro must be sky high. And then this Melissa bike, I put a question mark over it because I don't know if they're going for Olaf Koy or Christophe Laporte. Christophe Laporte won Paris Tours last year, and this will be his first race, but I have no idea. Well, nobody has any idea of his form, but I mean, outsiders, Patrick, who are you kind of looking at?
I would say, I think you got a lot of them covered. Maybe Axel Zingler for Visibility bike as well could be an option. Like you say, they've got no Wout art here, so it's a little bit unknown as to who they're going to be going for. But yeah, maybe Coy could make it just because he was climbing very well in Tirreno Adriatico, so he's certainly a possibility. Oliver Narsson, he has finished second in this race in the past, back in 2019, behind Alaphilippe. I think it was who won that day. I'm surprised you didn't mention Binny, but hey ho.
I mean, he's just become a father again and hasn't ridden since when, so...
yeah, exactly, but maybe he could do something, but Paul Magnier, I don't know, he didn't have the greatest Tirreno Adriatico for me. Like, he wasn't looking quite as good as he was in, say, like the Etoile de Bessèges. He just seemed a little bit off it. Can't really put my finger on it. But I would honestly say Rick Ploymers of Tudor Pro Cycling. I know we've got Alaphilippe here who will likely be their main man, but Ploymers was good in Tirreno. He won the Muscat Classic. He knows how to get over these climbs. Yeah, he's done well in, like, he was fifth in Kona Brussels Kona last year. He was second in the Super A Classic. He was fifth in the uphill sprint of the Grand Prix de Wallonie. He's a real up-and-coming talent, and I think that is he going to be competing for the win? No. But could he be hanging on to the coattails of a sprinting group which contains Milan and maybe sneaks the top 10? Yeah, I reckon he could be. So I think that kind of fulfills the outsider category bit. I can't, at the moment, see anybody else. I mean, Mohoric, possibly, as well. Can never write him off. He's got a very good history in this race. I think it's like the last 6 editions he's competed in. His lowest placing has been 11th. But his last 2 races, he didn't start Spada Bianchi and he DNF'd Kona Brussels Kona. So I'm a little bit worried for Mohoric and his chances here, just based on those 2 results alone. But you can never write off a previous champion of the race.
With that out of the way, Patrick, we might as well come to our predictions. I can't even remember what I said in the World Tour predictions. So, I mean, if anyone wants to see that, they can click up here. But Milan-San Remo, how do you think it's going to be won? So that's a prediction in itself. And then what's the top 3?
You know, I can remember what I said in that video. I said Milan. So
stick to that?
I don't know. If I go with something else, technically I'll have like 2 guesses, so I've got double the chance of looking smart, at least. How do I think it's going to go? I think that at the end of the Poggio, Mathieu van der Poel and Pogacar are going to attack away. I think that Pedersen is going to try and follow, but not get on the wheel, like just about. I think on the descent, van der Poel will gap Pogacar a little bit, but that Pogacar will then like catch up on the flat. That's sort of my expectation, and then there'll be that group behind with the sprinters. I don't know. I don't want to then give away what I'm going to say in terms of my prediction. But how do you think it's going to go?
I think Tadej Pogacar is going to attack from 100 kilometers away and win the whole race. No, of course not. I mean, it would be interesting.
Interesting, but suicidal.
He has to do something extra. I think Mathieu van der Poel is going to be very aggressive. I think Tadej Pogacar equally, but maybe the race is won on the descent. But that's all I'm willing to say. So what's your top 3?
I'm going to say that in 3rd place will be Jonathan Milan. In 2nd place will be Pogacar. And Mathieu van der Poel will win.
So you're falling into the pattern of Tadej 5, 4, 3, 2.
Yeah. That's my... I think it can happen. I think they're going to try and get it even more right this year. They're going to learn from their previous year's mistakes, but I think that Van der Poel is going to he's going to be able to play the Philipsen card behind, and he's going to be able to just like work Pogacar over a little bit. And I think generally just in a two up sprint, I think that Van der Poel would have a better chance than Pogacar of winning. What about you? What do you think? What's your prediction for the top 3?
So I said Mathieu van der Poel to win, Biniam Girmay 2nd, and Mads Pedersen 3rd. I mean, I don't think Binny is going to win this one. I don't think he's going to podium. I'm going to say 3rd place. This is hard. Anything can happen in this one, as we know. 3rd place, Christophe Laporte. That feels wrong. Yeah, that came out of nowhere. 2nd place, Mathieu van der Poel, and the first Australian sprinter, so Simon Gerrans doesn't count, to win in many years. Michael Matthews takes the win. I don't know if that's probably a bit biased because I felt sorry that he didn't win it by so close. Yeah, that feels like it's not going to happen, that podium.
When you led with Christophe Laporte, I thought, where is this going?
We might as well, bonus round. Where will Julien Philippe of Tudor? Actually, no. Oh no, no. I'm gonna change it. Matthews second, Laporte third, and my winner, the first ever winner from Bornholm, Denmark, Magnus Kort Nielsen, is going to take the win for Uno X.
Oh, interesting. He has looked in very good form, to be fair.
Is that going to happen?
But we'll just keep going. Eventually, if you just say everybody, we'll get somebody right.
Next podium prediction. No. But in terms of our bonus prediction, it's going to be where will Julien Philippe, the former winner, finish? Actually, should we do Kwiatkowski? Do you want to do Kwiatkowski or Alaphilippe?
I feel like Alaphilippe's got a better chance of finishing higher up.
Okay, do both.
Okay, I think Alaphilippe will finish. He has looked pretty good recently. I think Alaphilippe will finish in 14th, and I think that Kwiatkowski will finish in 42nd.
Okay, I'm going to say Julien Philippe in 8th and Kwiatkowski in 27th.
Okay.
We'll see how many of these predictions are right afterwards. But that's basically it for this video. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That really helps. And comment down below who you think is going to win. Give us a podium. And yeah, if you want to play along with the bonus round as well. But make sure to check out Patrick's own channel, Out of Cycling. He's doing his own Velo Games breakdown of this as well. And many other races that we don't even cover here. So be sure to check that out. But until next time, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you around.